Okay, so this is an assignment guide for organising sports events, assignment 2, released on the 27th and in on the 11th of October. So 27th of September, and it comes back in on the 11th of October. So the title is Event Preparation, and your learning outcome will be able to plan and promote your sports event, which most of it you've started to put in place. So the scenario, now you've learned about the types of events which you did in assignment 1, it's time that you start planning your school sports event. So you'll be responsible for the planning, which you've started to do, developing promotional material, and to help advertise your event in local schools who are invited. So your letters, etc., your posters. So task 1, you'll need to plan independently with or without tutor support. So ideally, you would do it independently to access those higher grades. So you need to create a portfolio which tracks the planning, so it shows your planning towards the event. You'll need to create some evidence of the following criteria. So there's a template provided, and I'll show you in a minute. But there should be, throughout your plan, you should show what you've done in terms of the plan, the minutes from the meetings that we've had, the roles of each member within the team, and the responsibilities. Okay, it might be worth putting that hierarchy in and then starting to generate the responsibilities off it. Then we should have an action sheet. So we should have targets, what we set out to do in terms of getting the event ready, records of tasks, or what's happened, health and safety. So we need risk assessments. We also need evidence of what equipment we need, where we need it, when we need it, has it been checked, and then contingency plans and any other evidence that supports it. Okay, now task 2, you're asked to create, along with your portfolio, some promotional materials. So that could be in the form of a leaflet, letter, etc. So it needs to be distributed to the schools so that they're aware of what event is being run or running. This might include some posters, flyers, some example of maybe a flyer that provides them information on rules, regulations, and how it's running. We also might want to think about the purpose and theme, and so we make the schools aware of exactly what they're coming into. So that needs to be generated towards your assignment task. Now once you've done that, you have an opportunity to kind of access the M3 and D1 criteria. So after you've created your portfolio in a written report format, you'll need to describe the impact of promotional materials, so your letters, your flyers, your posters, or emails, and have a think about how that has an impact on attendance levels at the event in terms of benefits, constraints, and effects of repeat business. Okay, so what benefits did your posters or promotional material bring? What constraints did it create? And does it have an impact on your repeat business? And you'll need to go into detail with that. Okay, so think about all the elements that contains. Now if you're looking for your distinction, you should go further and you should analyse the impact. So you should pull it apart and think, right, these are the positives, these are the negatives, why did this happen, how did this happen, etc. And then you might want to conclude and go, right, okay, well this is how we would move forward. So if we just have a look at the portfolio is down here. So you'd have your student name and the members in your group. You have a contents page breaking down exactly what's going to be in within your portfolio. So if you've got minutes, letters, etc., you should have a contents page listing everything that's going to be in here. Okay, this is just a basic overview. You should have aims and objectives. We talked about short, medium and long-term aims and objectives. We should have SMART targets and specific goals that we set out. We talked about resources. We talked about human, physical and fiscal resources. Again, you need to document it, you need to describe it in detail. So feasibility, this is about the fundraising, so how much is the cost, what funds do we raise, what do we raise it for. Then we should have our health and safety, so we should have risk assessments, first aid needs, have we got one, what will they be doing on the day, rules and regulations for the events, consent forms, legislation, so any legislation, Health and Safety Act, Health and Safety Act, the First Aid Act, and then contingency plans. If anything changes What plan have you got in place to be able to adapt and make the event still work? Any legal considerations that we require? Insurance potentially, maybe DBS or CRBs. It's now called DBS, so CRB has changed to DBS. The other things are your meeting minutes. Okay, you should have a couple of meeting minutes in there. Fixture lists, how it's going to run. Okay, any other information that you can supplement to show that actually you have planned this event and it's yours as a group. Okay. Okay, and then finally the task 2, which is describing the finally task 2 is where your promotional material is. So it's your leaflets, your letters, your posters. Okay, that needs to go in this space here. Obviously, it can be larger than that. You know, just copy and paste your documents in or screenshot them and put them in. But there needs to be sufficient information on that promotional material. Think about the information you're putting on it. So dates, times, where it's being held. Give them as much information as you possibly can to try and promote that. You might even want to give them a leaflet on the rules and regulations of the event. And then a written report on the impact of promotional material. So we talked about that merit and distinction criteria. What impact did those promotional materials have on attendance of the event? Were there any constraints? What were the positives? How might you do it in the future? And then if you really want to go further and you want to go for the distinction, then you're analysing that impact. So you're thinking about the positives, you're thinking about the negatives, you're thinking the whys, the hows, and then you're going to finalise it with a conclusion at the end of it. Okay, so there's a walkthrough guide of your assignment. It's really important that you meet the deadline. So if we just remind ourselves again of the deadline, it's the 11th of the 10th, 16. So it's not that far away, so we need to make sure that we're working hard to meet that deadline.